I have a DEI story, and I want to tell you about this DEI story right now. So, welcome to the Salem Mason Happy Home. What is today? Oh, February 3rd already. Can you believe it? Yeah. It's just like, whew, time is a flying. I know, it's cliche. Everybody says it right. DEI, of course, has been the forefront of the news for quite a while. And yet again, it's in the news again. So I wanted to tell you my DEI experience. Back in the early 2000s, I had a job at a place which, I'm not gonna name because I don't want to get sued or kidnapped or something. Because they have their tentacles in all of the politicians, law enforcement, financials of various local governments throughout the state of Minnesota. They're pretty big. But I was a security officer for them. I came to them from a previous position of being head of security for one of the largest retailers in the world in 2 different states. I was state certified in 2 different states for security, homeland security, asset security, and uniform security. I had federal licenses and state licenses and all kinds of shit. And I applied and I interviewed and I got through the interview process and the 10-year federal background check and another interview and all the things you have to do. And I got hired and went through 80, maybe 160. I don't know. There was I think it was like 4 weeks of intensive training, classroom, shadowing, the whole thing, right? And then I became a uniform security officer, and we took care of millions and millions of dollars that we were responsible for accounting for and protecting around the clock. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people all at once. Real famous people and customers and wealthy people. And it was the worst job I ever had in my entire life. The medical insurance was super expensive. The work environment had some impressive points to it. We had our own store. We had our own tailors. We had our own laundry. We had our own city beneath the business. But I worked for a bunch of men, misogynistic, arrogant, ego-driven maniacs. They were the worst group of men I've ever worked for in my entire life. And the women there weren't any better. Abusive, unapproachable, aggressive. I had my finger broken by a supervisor. I had clothes torn by being grabbed by supervisors. I was threatened, menaced, stalked, harassed. And when someone I knew that worked there was discovered by other staff as leaving their post to stalk me on the job and was brought in for discipline, he was given 3 days off with pay as discipline, and then the next month was Employee of the Month. Whenever I complained about something, it was a big deal. They would make sure I knew that I wasn't going to be happy with the outcome. And I'm not saying I was a nagger or complainer. I had been abused by a fellow officer to such an extent in front of so many people that a supervisor came down and said, "Would you like to file a complaint?" And they whisked me off to a room. And I said, "No, the guy is a creep, but he's got mental health issues. You need to do some training with him, and I'm not going to make any waves." But there were many, many incidences, and one incident where when I had my pinky fractured by a supervisor who also called me a fucking bitch in front of everybody. Because I was brand new and I wasn't aware of what it was that he needed me to do in a split-second moment, and it was just one thing. And he slammed my hand in the door. And when I went down to the office, we had our own medical staff there and whatnot, so, they checked my pinky and all that. And this horrible man that was my boss was upset that I wanted to complain about his golden boy who had just fractured my finger in front of 100 cameras and God knows how many people. And he turned to me and he said, "The only reason you're here is you're a woman. And I have to have so many women and so many colored people and stuff on my teams. I wouldn't have you here. Wouldn't have any of you here if the law didn't say I had to have them. I didn't want you here. You're only here because you're a woman." And that stuck with me for a long time. So what he was saying was that I was DEI hire, which, I really don't believe was true, because I came with several certifications from actual state government bodies and federal certifications. I had a lot of experience. I held high positions. I had Homeland Security clearance because I was a Homeland Security officer as well. That's a federal agency. I came to him highly qualified. The testing and the maintenance of those tests, of the tests and the training, was rigorous. We had to go through testing, state testing every 6 months, and if we failed a test, we were done. And you can't do that for as many years as I did that and not be qualified to do the job. So my perspective on DEI is that I worked in a place run by a good old boys club of white, cowboy boot wearing, women chasing, loud, buffoon men. And they hated me because I was a woman. It's no wonder the other women there were so cruel and mean, because they obviously had to live with the same thing I did, and they found a way around it by being as volatile and cruel and vicious as those men were. I wasn't the only woman who had this kind of abuse leveled on me and was told the same thing. So DEI is something that the federal government imposes on the will of private employers throughout the United States, mandating. So when they force you to hire a person of color or a woman or whatever above and beyond a qualified person whose skin is white, you're going to get a less quality package if that DEI person is not qualified. I was qualified. I can prove I was qualified. But to be told that I was a DEI hire and that I was only hired because I was a woman was gut-wrenching, because I wanted to believe, and I had believed up to that point, that I had been hired because I was a qualified professional coming to them with high credentials, as high as the federal government in Homeland Security, to which I had been recruited from. And to know that all of my hard work and all of my efforts and all of my credits to show wouldn't have made a difference. They would have hired me nonetheless. But to know that I had put in all of those years of work and hard training and sacrifice to get the qualifications and experience that I had, to hold the positions that I did, only to be told that it didn't matter, that they only hired me because I was a woman. So they got a good officer out of me, that's for sure. Very good officer out of me. That they did. But at great cost to me, and I've never wanted to be in that position ever again. And I don't think it's fair for our federal government to mandate that they hire people they may not want to work for them. You know, if you own a little gift shop down on Main Street, USA, and somebody comes in there and they're, stealing, or they're being belligerent, or they're harassing your customers, or they're dirty, or whatever it is, you can call the police and have them trespassed from your business. And without question, the police are not going to make you do anything other than say, I want this person out of my space. And they can take them out of your space. Because you are the business owner. You are the manager, whoever. And if the cops show up and they say, nope, they want you gone, this is their business, they have the right to say, you got to be gone. You have to go, because they have all of that power. But they can't make life and death decisions about their business practices and their staffing without the government finger poking them in the chest. And DEI mandates, all that they say is that the government believes that they are superior to the American people whom they work for by saying, you don't know better. You're all just a bunch of racist pigs, misogynists, sexists, whatever, isms, phobias. And so we're going to make you do this because we know you can't be trusted to do it. Oh, we'll take your tax money. We'll make you pay through the teeth to have your own business. We'll cause you to struggle and strife and suffer through your life. We will thumbscrew you financially. We will burden you with rules, regulations, and laws. And then we're going to tell you who you can hire. That's not right. And I'd like to think that the majority of Americans who are in positions of hiring individuals would use the right criteria. And there are gazillion jobs that people who are hearing impaired, vision impaired, height impaired, autistic, savants are there. And you can't put a price tag on the talent in DEI pools. because they have to become experts and specialists in a way that the rest of us common people don't. It's like hiring senior citizens. You know, they can't ask you about a birth date initially when you apply for a job now. They have to be, you know, they have to wait a little bit. They can't, you know, do stuff like that because of age discrimination. So they can't ask you now if you're male, female, whatever on an application anymore because of protections that are in place. So why then, if you can't ask those questions, can you find out if they fall into the DEI categories that you are mandated to glean your pool from? So they just really just bind you up. So then bounce you back and forth. Do this, don't do it. Now do it again, no, don't do it. It's ridiculous. And being in an interesting position of DEI, I was never denied a job because I was a woman. I was hired because I was a woman. I excelled at the job. I came with the right credentials, the right background, the right references and all. And all of that didn't matter. They were going to hire me no matter what. That made me feel really bad. Because I had done the work. I had achieved the accomplishments. And I had a right to be there as an employee hired for my qualifications and experience, not my gender. So that is a flip side to the DEI dilemma. The assumption on the part of the Democrat left-wing people that people of color, women, individuals with disabilities can only get a job if the government forces people to hire you. That is such an affront to those individuals. I probably don't know any people of color or any women who would wear a big badge of honor saying, oh, I got hired because I got dark skin. I'm a woman, I got hired. I'm going to take that job because I'm a woman. I'm going to take that job. No, they're going to want to get that job on their merits. And it says how little regard the left has for any American, any human being that falls under DEI categories. Your assumption that they can't get a job unless the government makes a mandate, and that even if you did, you would not be able to qualify for that job to begin with. How offensive. Now, maybe back 50, 60 years, 70 years ago, when individuals with disabilities weren't welcomed into, there was an ADA rule so that they could go into the schools and integrate and go through high school, or they weren't allowed in the businesses so they couldn't get a job at this business or whatever because of the color of their skin. I get that, but that was then. This is now. It's a whole different world. And what the left is trying to do is they are trying to extract all of these antiquated early 20th century and 19th century ignorant mentality and bring it into the 21st century and tell us that they're these advanced beings that know everything about everything and that they are being sensitive. You're not. You're saying that you are superior to everybody. And you are looking down on those people that fall into the DEI categories. If I were a business owner and somebody came in for a job interview and they gave me a female name and they were wearing female clothes and they looked like a girl and they were qualified to the hilt, I'd hire them. And if the next day they showed up in a three-piece suit and told me they were man, I don't give a shit. I give a shit that you show up, you do the job to the best of your ability that you were hired to do, and that you treat people with the utmost respect, and that you become part of the office family. That's all that matters. Follow the rules, be qualified. That's it. That's all that employers ask for, and that's all that employees really probably want. So take it from somebody who was told that they were only hired because of DEI and nothing else. It is offensive when I hear people say that anybody that doesn't agree with DEI is racist and all this other stuff. No, you are. You are the racist because you think that the only way a person of color or disabilities or impairments or whatever can get a job and have a meaningful, gainful career is if the government tells somebody to give you that job. You are shameful. Shameful. And until next time, do good, be good. And think about where you stand with DEI and why you stand there. You're not right and the world is wrong.